Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Find and Select Tool in Archicad webinar. My name is Tammy, and I will be moderating this session with our speaker, Mr. Sudhir, who is the technical specialist at GSI. In this webinar, we will cover the following topics. The first one will be an overview of GSI. The next one is the Find and Select tool in Archicad, including how to unlock the power of selecting elements from your design area. We will learn how to create criteria to find and select elements in both 2D and 3D environments. And the last one will be the Q&A session with our speaker. Note that you can submit your questions at any time during the webinar using the chat box on the right side of your screen. Now, let's get started with the first part of our webinar, an overview of GSI. I'm sure that some of you are already familiar with GSI, but for those who are not, I will give you a quick overview. GSI is an AEC solution provider that specializes in Asia-Pacific region. We have two offices, one in Vietnam and one in Hong Kong, with a team of over 40 members who are dedicated to helping our clients achieve their project goals in the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. To achieve this, GSI offers two main services. First, our software development team can create custom software solutions to meet the specific needs of our clients. Every project is different, and not every software solution is a perfect fit. That's why our team works closely with our clients to understand their needs and develop custom solutions or new configuration based on existing software. And second, GSI is a trusted partner of leading European construction software companies such as Allplane, Bluebeam, Graphisoft, and ID Statica. These software solutions are designed to optimize the workflows in the construction industry, saving time, money, and effort on varied projects. To learn more about GSI current services, you can scan the QR code on your screen to visit our website and book your appointment with our team. Now, let's move to the main content of our webinar, the Find and Select tool in Archicad. This session will be presented by Mr. Sudhir, who is a technical specialist at GSI. He has many years of experience working with Archicad. To keep in touch with him after this webinar, please scan the QR code on your screen to connect with him on LinkedIn. And also, I would like to remind you that you can submit your questions for speaker at any time during the webinar using the chat box on the right side of your screen. Our speaker will answer your questions at the end of the session. And now I would like to invite Mr. Sudhir to begin his presentation.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Without further ado, I would like to start the webinar. Okay, so for the first slide, starting from the industry context. So usually with the large BIM projects, while designing and modeling, there are a lot of design changes, and to track those design changes is a priority. And also, update the BIM model as per the changes also is very important. And in Archicad, you have a lot of features where we perform graphic overrides and saving of the views. And you can also class detect, which we call collision detection, and prepare schedules. And for these kinds of features, while using them, the Find and Select tool and its palette is really helpful. So that's why we are going to dive a little bit deeper in using Find and Select tool and making the best out of it. So in this webinar, we will be basically discovering the Find and Select tool. We'll just test it out. We will also assign some IDs to make the criteria in the Find and Select tool palette and try to select them in both 2D and 3D environments. And so basically, why do we use Find and Select palette is because it's really easy to select anything as per the metadata the element carries. So it also aids in grouping elements. You can also, sort of select them and change the settings of the desired elements quickly, and it also enables productivity. So before we go to the next slide, I would like to switch to the Archicad interface and just start today's demonstration on this webinar. So here we are in the Archicad interface now. I have this sample model prepared for this webinar. So we will be using this model just to practice and test out the Find and Select palette, which is right here. So if we go to the top, you can see the Find and Select button here. We can just activate that and this will bring up palette. And remember, you can it's a hovering palette. We cannot actually adjust this to anywhere in the tabs nearby. So it just hovers in the background. So once we have that, we will sort of see the criteria set name on the top, which is currently on custom. And at the side, we have the manage criteria option, which is like we can store what we create here in the criteria. So we can store as what we want, or we can also import them. And once we have them stored, we can also export, delete, or rename. So that's that. And so, and below here we have the criteria and values. So firstly, it says element type, is, and column. So we can basically assign what we want to do with the Find and Select here in the criterias and put in the value and just sort of select them. So these minus and plus here are basically for the selections. So we can either select those elements or we can deselect the elements from what's already selected. So if there's nothing selected, there's no point on deselecting, right? So basically, if we have a large number of elements that are selected, we will sort of filter out that the elements that we do not want to select and then hit deselect. So that's that. So quickly we can just sort of trying to demonstrate firstly on 2D, how do we select anything that we desire. So if I say like I want to select beams with the element type is beam, so I will just hit plus button here and it will help me select all these elements. So basically we can also filter them out with individual properties inside those beams, which is going to be done using the select criteria add tool here. So if we see add, we have loads of properties that we can assign. So for now, if I say, let's say if we have a geometry and the beams basically has a cross section or net area or 3D length, we can assign them. So if we assign, for this example, the height, so let's say the height of the beam here currently is 650. So if we do that and if we do 650 here and select those, all the beams with the height of 650 mm will be selected, and the rest of them, as you can see, these ones are not selected. So if I do that again, so it will show us the number of elements that are selected here right now. It says 94, and basically we can now, once it's selected, we can edit the settings as well, go to the main settings and change what we have if there's a changes in the settings. And that's that. Moving on, if we want to select something from a certain area, let's say. So we have the marquee tool right here. So the marquee tool will also help us to select it inside the tool, right? So inside the marquee tool, if we create a box for marquee, we can see in the find and select, it says marquee is inside partially or entirely. So this appears immediately once we create a marquee in the plan. So for now, if I put this as marquee is inside entirely, right? So all the beams that are of 650 height will be selected. So if I do plus here, so you can see them selected here. So that's the desired part that we wanted to select, and marquee 2 comes in handy when we combine it with the find and select palette. Yeah. So moving on to the same demonstration in the 3D. If we go take a look at this quickly. So this is the 3D model. I've hot linked everything up. This is the main model on the below here. But just to make it a bit understandable, I'll just remove that so that it's not confusing. So in this model here, if I use the marquee tool again and just sort of use it on this area and hit the plus button again for the height of 650 mm belonging to the beam, right? So when we hit that, we get the beams that are 650, and since it's inside partially, the marquee is inside partially, whatever the marquee box is touching is also selected here, as you can see. So if we sort of not create it partially but entirely and redo that again, then everything inside this tool will be selected, right? So that was on the 3D for desired elements. We will also sort of go through trying to select with element IDs by assigning them. So currently the element ID of this beam is 0. So if we go also to the classification and properties, the ID is 0. And for changing the IDs according to the drawing size or designer's choice, how the designer would like to show the dimensions of these the beams, is also quite automated in Archicad, and we can make use of that automation and just use the find and select tool to do a lot of things. So for now, quickly, I would just like to assign individual unique, let's say unique ID for each beam element. So if I go to the beam, or let's just use the find and select tool. So if I just go back, remove the criteria of the height and just use the element height is beam, we will just hit select and all the beams are selected, and then we will assign the IDs automated with the element ID manager, where we will be putting in the ID components, right? So for this example, I will be using beam as BM, and then for the text, I'll just put a dash over there, and then we will not use this maybe, and we'll use the counter. So every beam here will have each number set as the counter. So it will go on ascending order, and if I change the ID, it will create a unique element ID for each beam in this view, right? So once that's done, we can hit OK, and now we can see every element has a separate ID. So this will help us to filter out some certain scenarios where we want to, just select certain elements using the IDs. So once that's done, we can also try and label those using the label tool. So if I have the element ID here with the text auto on, we can just go ahead and hit OK and just do the annotations. Before that, we want to select the elements, right? So once that's selected, we can go ahead and annotate them. So all these beams here are annotated with their unique ID. For this example, we used the counter numbers, but yeah, for sure we can create our own element IDs where we have the beam's geometry displayed. Right, so for that, we will just sort of move on to the columns and try to see how to demonstrate that using the geometry function here. So for that, we can just quickly go to the find and select tool, use the column, hit OK. And once we have that, we again go back to that ID manager, which is in the listing extras. So it's with that, the ID, we have 61 elements already selected, right? So we use that call as the column. And for this, we will be using the height and the width of the column, right? So that's 1.5, let's say 1.5 meters. It's 1500 mm. So 1.5 here. I will have that X going on in the middle. We'll use the counter as well. We'll just, before the counter starts, we have a dash so that it's not confusing. So it says column 1.5 into 1.5 dash and the counter. So we can start the counter from 1 or 0. It's up to you. So for this now, I will just start from 1 and change the IDs. And once that's done, we have the IDs changed and we have OK. So all these columns that are selected have the separate IDs with their geometry in the ID and properties. So we'll again use the label properties here. For that, I'll just like to turn on the pointer and hit this, okay, and go and automate that quickly. And that's that. So all the columns have been labeled with individual IDs with their geometry, right? So now we can make use of our, again, the find and select tool to sort of change anything. So if there's a design change and we might want to, change the size, we will quickly find those columns using the IDs and the geometry. So to do that, we just go here and use the geometry function and sort of try to use the height, let's say. So if the height of 1500 column is going to be changed, then we will hit so let's do that in 3D. So if I do that and try to pick up that, so the column height is currently on position. If we change it towards the geometry, let's say the width, okay, and once that's done, we can pick up those settings, which I did not talk about earlier, but basically the button here helps you to copy the settings that you select. So if I select this and sort of copy that, it will copy the width of what's selected. So that's 1500. Once that's done, hit OK. All the elements that have the width of 1500 will be selected in the column, right? So if we want to change that, we can quickly do that like this. And if we further want to have more in-depth selection, then we can just go ahead and find the ID 0.5, x 1.5, and let's say number 33 is going to be here selected. So if I do that, let's say element ID, let's copy one so it's accurate. Okay. Let's do that from here. Okay, so 036. Okay, it's ease. So only the elements that is 1.5 times 1.5 with the ID 36 will be selected. So if I do that, it will select that, and we can change the ID accordingly. So I hope it's not that confusing. So if you have any questions, we can answer those at the end. And for now, like the demonstration is almost at the end. Quickly, I would also like to talk about creating selection sets. So if we use the find and select tool, and maybe we have certain things that we stored here. So let's say we stored this as let's say column that has a size of 1.5 to 1.5 and is the ID 36. So if we store that, it will remember that here for us. It will say it will be saved in the my criteria set section, and you can revisit that and use this find and select. And let's say I selected it over here. And let's try to select more of the elements by just doing this. It contains 3. Then okay, so at least 10. So these 10 columns, I want to revisit them, right? So I can either do store as, right? I'll store them as this, or I can also make use of our other palette, which is the selections. So the selection palette over here can be used to store them. So if I create a new selection set here and say the same name as earlier, column 1.5, 1.5, 6, okay, that's 3. So all the elements in this selection set will belong to this name, right? So if we hit that, it will be saved in the selections. And in the future, we can use either the selection, which is almost like similar to find and select, but it's where you store things here, and this is where we create and store, and also like export, import, and rename, right? So there's a lot of things going on in this one. But on this one, we have, let's say if we try to hit this, so if I hit that, it will select that because it remembers what we just said, right? So I had a beam set one here earlier. I saved, and so if I hit that, it will sort of select that. And we can do with these kinds of settings, we can apply to a lot of other elements as well. It's not only for the structure elements, it can be also for your architectural objects that we create. Any markup tools that we use can also be used for selecting out. So that's about it for today from my side. And if you have any questions, then you can just include them here.
Thank you, Sudhir, for your presentation. And I hope all of you found the information helpful for your work in the future. And so, Sudhir, can you show the screen, including our QA code?
Yes, sure. Let me just do that quickly.
Yeah, thank you. So now we will move to the Q&A session. Please submit your questions in the chat box on the right side of your screen.
Also, before I pass it on to Tam, I'd like to present the intro session for NemesCheck group as well, which is going to be this one. The NemesCheck group, I sort of want to talk about the planning and design, build plus construct, operate plus manage, media plus entertainment is what the NemesCheck umbrella is. And the Graphisoft Archicad that we are using currently falls under the planning and design section. And you can see there are a lot of other BIM softwares, and which sort of falls under the membership group. And moving on to the Q&A sessions. Yeah. Yes, Ms. Tam, you can continue now.
And also for the attendee, if you want to keep in touch with Mr. Sudhir after this webinar, you can scan the QR code on your screen to connect with him on LinkedIn. Okay, so if there are no further questions, we will conclude our webinar here. And if you have any questions or need assistance after the webinar, please contact CSR through our website or social media channels. And thank you for your time today. We're looking forward to seeing you in our next webinar.